What's going on, Dan K Show fans? Another week, another Dan K Show, and one more team to be selected. We've been through the NCDC All Dan K and All Lucas J teams. We've been through the Premier. It is time to move to the Elite. And oh, was it an elite season for all of these star athletes on the ice. And with that, I go to our star athlete, our star backup, our star right-hand man, our star tech guy, our star he's in charge of all food orders via phone from the Dan K Show, head of diner picking on road trips, and the man, the myth, and legend, Lucas Jones. What's going on, Lucas?
Not much, Dan. I tell you what, you do not get to be in the exquisite physical shape that I'm in without being an expert on ordering food at the road. I mean, there is not a better example of how to stay in tip-top shape than myself. I mean, you see it everywhere. Just a bowling ball on legs, Dan. That's the peak of human physical condition.
That's all we're about here. We're about eating good food on the road and as many wings as we can fit in our body. But we start this week, as we do every one of these shows, we got to break down a little coin flip here to decide who picks first. Lucas, you're supposed to call it this week, but I think we had a little argument last week about mathematics. You were wrong. I was right. So 6 times we've had a coin flip in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. You picked tails because you say tails never fails. You're 3-0. I've picked heads my 3 chances, and all 3 times I've lost. I told you because of that 6 consecutive tails landings. Guaranteed heads this time. Literally, it's like a 90-10 split chance here, 90% chance the heads lands because of how many times we've hit tails.
Again, not how that works, Dan.
100% how it works. Flip the coin. I will call heads and prove you wrong.
Heads.
Yes! I did it. I've beaten math. Math does not control me, and I win. You know what, Lucas? Maybe they were wrong about my grades that they gave me in all my math classes.
Well, I think part of the problem was, Dan, is because of the grades in the earlier part of the year, you had such a high probability of getting better grades at the end of the year that they were like, we can't let it happen.
It's exactly what happened. But now it's time to get into the picks. Because of that coin flip win, that means I'll have first pick on the forwards. This will be a snake draft. Lucas will then get his next 2 forward lines. I'll get my first. Lucas will pick his next 2, so on and so forth. We'll do the same with defensemen, the same with netminders. Lucas, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I am ready as well. Let's go. What a great season in the USPHL Elite. Forward line number 1 for me, Lucas. I'm going to stay at the top of the score sheet here. I'm going with my top point getter in all the land, Brian Clorty. And it is clear he is just that good. 35 goals, 27 assists, 62 points, leads the league in goals, leads the league in points, 12 power play assists, 7 game-winning scores for the year 2000 for the Northern Cyclones. Brian Clorty, my first pick. Then I need a centerman. I'm going to a guy that's going to win me every single face-off for the rest of the time. He's got the Lalanset. He's got like a lance. He's like a jouster, man. It's Guillaume Lalanset of the Charlotte Rush, and I'm going to be rushing the victories with this guy on the ice. 34 goals, 27 assists, 61 points. A tied for the league lead, 10 power play goals. He's a power play savant. And I'm going to surprise you here, Lucas. I'm not going top 3 in points. I'm going to jump this one right here and go to Ronan Keenan. He might be a bad guy in the Marvel movies, but Ronan is going to win me some games. He's a fast skater, a long stride, a really, really talented year 2003 with a humongous, ginormous, ridiculous future.
Yeah, I mean, that Tampa Bay Juniors team is just so good every year. This year was no exception. Ronan Keenan is a perfect pick from that squad. Guillaume Lalanset as well. It's just one of those names that it always seems to pop up on a broadcast, and you can't forget about Brian Clorty. That Cyclones team is a perennial powerhouse. I'm a little jealous of those first-round picks, Dan, but I think you might be a little jealous of mine, especially because they get to pick 6 forwards in a row here.
Go for it. Let's see it. Forward line number 1.
Well, my forward line number 1 is also going to draw from that scary Charlotte Rush team. I'm going Ivan Korsak. He's a skater who's very, very scary, very, very skilled. No matter how you slice it, he can make an impact. He's going to be teamed up with John DiFilippo from the Cyclones and Connor O'Brien from the Springfield Picks. The Springfield Picks especially had such a good year at both levels of the game, the elite and premier levels, Dan. And this is a team that has a really good development model. Connor O'Brien was a really, really incredible talent to come out of that squad this year. I'm really confident in my first line's ability to hit the ice and make an immediate impact.
This is a great top forward line here, and one that is going to be seen in the game of hockey for years to come. DiFilippo can flip a game on its head, and people are flipping out about how good DiFilippo was all year long with the Cyclones. Connor O'Brien and this pick squad, the Picks had a sneaky, sneaky good year at the elite and premier levels, folks. They went under the radar for a long time, and they spoke loudly in the point sheet, on the standing sheet, everywhere. This Picks team was all over. They had a Michelle Branch year. They were everywhere to me. Finally, Korsak, baby, Korsak was so good, Lucas. This guy, man, talk about the B-52s. He could have scored 52 if they let him play long enough.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good forward line. I'm happy that I was able to get these three guys together. Another three guys I'm really happy to also get together, Dan. We're going to start with Adam Bertzlaff from the Florida Eels. And this Eels team, again, they're such a powerhouse. They walk in every rink like they own the place. Adam Bertzlaff is no exception. He's going to be joined on the wing by Daniel Now from that really, really good junior Kane squad. We've talked at length about how Carolina was just immediate contender. They did, they really put their mark on the USPHL last season at both levels despite injuries. And they're going to be the spokes on the wheel, and the axle of that wheel, Dan, is Johnny Shear from the Tampa Bay Juniors. And you know how much I love this Tampa Bay Juniors team. You know how much I love that program down in Tampa. The Strokes know what they're doing. They know how to build a program. But Johnny Shear, he doesn't have an H in his name because he doesn't have time. He doesn't have time to spell his name with an extra letter. He's out there scoring goals in bunches night in and night out.
Johnny Shear is so good, and he is here, man. He is on the scene. He is talented. And that Tampa Bay Juniors team, man, they do it right. They got so many young stars, so much young talent, and you see them every year at the elite level. Starts a little slow as the boys get their feet under them, and then once they get this game, this level under control, they are off and running. You're going to have the last laugh with Adam Bertzlaff almost every time, man. This is a point-getting machine. And Daniel Now, right now, there's a handful of forwards that can compete with this young man. He is absolutely great. The goal pipes have been calling for Danny Boy all season long. Let's get to my second forward line, though. And this is one, Lucas, I call this the targeted line right here. These are the guys that every team locked in on week in and week out. This is the guy on every team that had to play the role of the guy. And I love all of them. Let's start with my man, it's Waters World, Keenan Waters. And this Keenan has no last for him, man. This is an SNL. This is an absolute superstar. Anybody who hasn't had a chance to see Keenan Waters play, you better. It's a great kid. This is a #1 personality in the game, man. And this kid gets it done week in and week out for the Cyclones. Next up, it's Cooper Neal, man. And this guy is kneeling to no one. He is royalty on the ice. He wins faceoffs. He plays the game smart. He's controlled on his skates. He's got great balance, knows how to avoid the big hit and make the big pass. Cooper Neal is going to love his last line mate here, Christian Roble. This is a guy, huge pickup here, Lucas. You know that. And Roble, man, of the Charlotte Rush, this is a guy we talked about all year long going to the playoffs. If he played the Premier as the fourth line forward, we were gonna call them the champs. If he played in the elite, what you wound up doing for the postseason, this guy was a top line forward for them, their top guy, and to change the game. Christian Roble is absolutely stunning, possibly the best player in the elite.
You know, we've talked about how good Keenan Waters is, and he just makes any line better by playing with them. Same thing with Cooper Neal. They're really great players for their position, and they're physical for their size as well. But Christian Roble is such a great player, and you're right, Dan. We said that whatever team he ended up on was instantly going to have a better, if not the best chance to go all the way to a championship berth. When you have those kinds of skills and you can put them all in a package like Christian Roble, that's a player that can succeed at any level, including the next level.
Let's talk about my third forward line. What do I always say? So much importance in scoring from the third forward line, and there's so much importance up here with your third forward line. They got to be smart. They have to take advantage of every minute on the ice. They have to keep you in the game. They have to win the plus-minus battle. This group does it every time out. We're starting with Funky Cool Medina right here. That's Gavin Medina, man. And Gavin Medina for the Florida Eels was slithering through defensemen to score goals and get assists all year long. Nick Rush had a field day calling games for Gavin Medina. Next up, we go to the Carolina Junior Canes and Ethan Chapman, man. Ethan Chapman sounds like he could be picking it at the hot corner in baseball as well. It's a good baseball name. But hockey-wise, Ethan Chapman, man, this was one of the guys for the Junior Canes, a Junior Canes team that put up huge winning streaks this season and were really tough to deal with at home. Finally, the last man on that third forward line, I got to go to a Dan K favorite right here. I can't let Lucas get this guy, so I got to take him right now, and it's Joe Palcaro. And this Joe can perk up an offense in a moment. He was starting the season with the Hampton Roads Whalers. Late in the year, headed over to the Richmond Generals. Lucas, what does he do his first game back against the Hampton Roads Whalers? Let's see. I don't know. Wins the Dan K Show start of the game on home ice in front of 600 cheering fans with Dan K and Lucas Jones piped around the building. We were throwing hats at him. We were cheering. And Joe Palcaro is big game savant right there. He's a big game player.
I mean, you've already won the game, and then you just flex on him by winning the Dan K Show star of the game hat, getting that interview at center ice. Joe Palcaro's a great talent, Ethan Chapman as well, and Gavin Medina fits in so well, I think, wherever he is, and he really knows how to find good spots on the ice. He has a good hockey intelligence, knows where to get open, isn't afraid to get down into the corners and really battle. And that Eels team, they love to battle. That's what they do, and he fits right in. And Dan, I think my third line can go toe-to-toe with your third line right now.
I'm ready for it. Let's see it.
And I'm going to ask you a question. Have you heard?
Have you
heard about John Hurd, Dan? Member of the Boston Bandits. John Hurd is one of the most tenacious players that I've had the pleasure of watching this season. I mean, he puts up the numbers. You're looking here, 44 points on the season, 9 points on the power play, balanced goals and assists. You love a player like John Hurd. He's going to be joined by Jacob Howell from the Cyclones, another great talent from the Northern Cyclones organization, and Luke Dozen, another just bruising body from the Richmond Generals who know how to dish out punishment.
That's the bulldozer right there, Luke Dozen. That guy gets the job done. You want to talk about someone who really helped out Cooper Neal and that Gen side, Rob Simmons, a bunch of the big names in Richmond. Luke Dozen made things happen. What does RC like? Put together like nobody's business, blue-collar forwards, guys that'll play it
Absolutely.
Guys that'll play it fast, guys that'll score the puck, pass the puck, do what they have to do the little things. Noah Farley was a guy like that who moved up this past year. Luke Dozen, big-time name. Jacob Howell, how can you go wrong? How can you go wrong with a guy who can put up points and numbers like Jacob Howell? He is absolutely stellar. And then I have heard, Lucas, I have heard about the word of John Hurd. And the Bandits forward right there, he will steal every point you let him. So good, that third forward line.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're going to be joined by this fourth forward line here. And when you look at what you want out of a fourth forward line, I think you want some development. You want to be able to have these guys where when we're picking next year's All Dan K Lucas J team, I want to see some of these guys on this roster again. It's Alexis Burkitts from the Springfield Picks, Ryan Bahula from the Tampa Bay Juniors, and Luke Havener from those Evertonacious Junior Canes. This is a really, really young line, Dan, and I think that these guys are all trending up, a couple of 02s and 03s here. These are players that are going to be involved in the game in a very significant way for a long period of time.
I'll tell you what, first of all, Burkitts, man, now's the time on Burkitts when we dance. You know, Burkitts is the guy who made them dance with the Springfield Picks every time he got the puck. They were happy to see him have it. Then, you know what? Keep the hips loose, man, with the Bahula. They were doing the Bahula with the Tampa Bay Juniors every time he got the puck. I mean, Ryan Bahula was so good, so stellar, so splendid. Finally, Luke Havener, man. Haven't you had enough goals yet, Luke? Luke Havener was so good, so stellar, a great fourth line. Let's each take an extra forward. I think the forward position was so good in the elite. That's where we'll go with the extra skater here. I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I think one of the great things about this extra skater role here is you really get a chance to reward somebody who really either turned it on at the end of the year or kind of persevered through tough situations or really just succeeded on a lot of what they did during the year and succeeded as part of a great team. The folks at home know how much we love the Charleston Colonials. And hopefully by now the Charleston Colonials know how much we love them. And now it's time to let them know how much I love Marco Pineda from the Charleston Colonials. The top scorer from this team, 25 points in 28 games, averaging just over a point per game, 13 goals, 12 assists, 9 points on the power play. He is a talented skater, and this Charleston Colonials team is just getting started.
Marco had no trouble finding the back of the net all season long. 13 goals, 12 assists, and just 28 starts. And then in the postseason, 3 goals and an assist for him. Got his team to the finals, to nationals before it was all said and done. An incredible job by Marco Pineda. I got a fourth line and an extra skater to pick. Let's go. I'm going to start off with a man who is tied for the most power play goals in the elite, 10 of them on the season. It's Drew Dupuis of the Atlanta Mad Hatters. And he was a Mad Hatter on the ice all season long, man, scoring pucks. Next up, I got to go to another goal scorer here. I got to go to a New York Aviator, and I got to go to Daniel Yakashenka. It would be a absolute shame if I didn't put Yakashenka on my team because Danny Boy got the same first name as me, puts goals in the back of the net, makes things happen. Yakashenka had a great year for an Aviator squad. Finally, I need one more guy here on this fourth forward line. Who do I go with? How about Rob Simmons? 18 and 17 on the year. He's a balanced scorer. He stepped into that Matt Doherty line there with the Richmond Generals Elite and filled some huge shoes from Matt Doherty. They really focused in on him week in and week out along with Cooper Neal and Luke Dozen. They really put a lot of eyes on him throughout games down there in the Southeast. Played in one of the toughest divisions in all the land. Rob Simmons gets my pick. Finally, extra forward. Lucas said we love the Colonials. You took Marco Pineda, who had an incredible season. I had a guy that I waxed poetic on all year long. And I said he's not coddling anybody. And it's Seth Kotler of the Charleston Colonials. How about Seth Kotler? 9-9 on the year. But just a guy who was a leader for his squad, a really young Colonials elite team that towards the end of the year turned it on and went to nationals.
We said it at that Southern USPHL showcase, Dan. We did 100 million games. We saw the Colonials 100 million times, and we said that this was a team that had the raw materials to put together a winning squad. And towards the end of the year, they started to prove us right, and everything went together. Kotler was a huge part of that. But I want to talk about Drew Dupuis from the Atlanta Mad Hatters, especially because we got to see this Atlanta Mad Hatters team down in Florida when we were down there for a couple of days. This is a rough and tumble squad with the skills to back it up. They have a great coaching staff who's behind them 110% of the way. They fight from beginning to end. They matched up against this Tampa Bay Juniors team with a physicality that not a lot of squads can bring against an also physical TBJ team. They met them head on in the neutral zone. They met them head on in their own zone. This is a great squad, and I'm glad that Drew is getting recognition.
What a great set of forwards, 13 forwards for each side. Make sure to tune in later this month. We are going to be working on putting together all of these games, the all Dan K team versus the all Lucas J team with Dan K and Lucas Jones on the broadcast. We'll also have interviews with the star of the game, not virtually, in reality, although the game will be played virtually via Chell 20. It'll be a fun time for all. And finally, we'll get some hockey. We'll do something on ice. I can't wait. Let's get to the defensemen. We'll be right back with those defensive pairings next.
The USPHL Combines are almost here. The Chicago Combine will take place June 13th through 14th, and the Detroit Combine will take place June 25th and 26th. This is your best chance to get seen by coaches and scouts from all across USPHL Nation, and the Dan K Show will be on site to carry coverage and interviews all weekend long. For more information, go to usphl.com/combine.
All right, we've picked our forwards. We've got that all set. It's time to get to the defensive side of the ice and stop the puck. We're going to score it enough with the forwards we picked up. With me winning the toss, I got first pick of the forward lines. Lucas, you get D pair number 1. Pick your first D pair.
And we've always talked about how ironic it is that I always pick my forwards first, when in reality, probably would have better appreciated a defensive first pick. And now I finally got one, and I am not going to waste it, Dan. I am going with Luke Friccione from the Picks and Hunter Meyer from the Northern Cyclones. My defensive first line has a last name, and it's Meyer. Hunter Meyer, an incredible product from the Northern Cyclones, blocks pucks with the best of them, gets pucks into the back of the net, and more importantly, gets pucks to his teammates. And that's what I've done with this first line. I've picked an assist-heavy first line with 60 assists between the two of them. That's the way I like to play offense. I like my defensemen to find the forwards, crash the net, and get physical.
25 power play assists combined between Friccione and Meyer. 13, 28, and 41 for Meyer, 12, 32, and 44 for Friccione, 1 and 2 in points. This is not a Lucas Jones pick here, usually for the defense. I know you like to get him involved assist-wise, but usually your top D pair is just an absolute lockdown defensive unit right there. These guys are locked down defensively, but they will get involved offensively. I'm excited about that pick, Lucas. I feel like you're coming to the dark side here with me and picking a little bit of this offensive-minded defenseman.
Well, don't get ahead of yourself, Dan. I still get a snake draft style second and third line, and I'm planning a little bit of a roundhouse style for those second two.
My first D pair here, Lucas, I'm going to stay with the numbers here right now. I'm going to stay with the top here and go to my top goal-scoring defenseman in the elite. 8 more goals scored than any other defenseman. It's Mikhail Melikov of the Florida Eels. A great season for Melikov. This guy is not mellow by any means. He is a big-time hitter. He is the M&M man. He is absolutely making things happen down there in Florida. Then I go to the right side, and this is the all-alliteration line. Mikhail Melikov meet Brady Burke of the Richmond Generals. And Brady Burke is a bunch to deal with. This Brady is trouble every time you see him out there. You know what I mean? One Brady may be fleeing to Tampa Bay, but this Brady runs from nothing. Brady Burke is a winner, and I can't wait to have Melikov and Burke together.
When Brady Burke is on the ice, you will never hear the announcer say he's got numbers, because Brady Burke has a great level of intelligence out there on the ice, physical player as well. Very physical, very smart, knows exactly how to play the game. And another guy who's also very intelligent, combines it with stick handling, is Melikov. I mean, you forget he's a defenseman sometimes, the way he handles the puck, confidently going from end to end, not afraid to carry it over the blue line. The offensive-minded defenseman is a good thing to have.
I have a lot of Southern athletes here in my defensive side of the ice because I'm going back to the Southeast for D pair number 2. I'm starting with Nolan Taberham of the Carolina Junior Canes. And this Carolina Junior Canes team, we talked about it during the forwards talk. There were just so much depth on this team, so much skill, and Nolan Taberham was a guy that allowed that skill to express itself by how he played on the defensive end physically. Then I'm going to have a ball, man. I'm going to have a blast with my second D, man. It's Kyle Ball of the Hampton Roads Whalers, top assist getter, top point getter at the defensive position for the Hampton Roads Whalers defensive side of the ice. So many great defensemen out there in Hampton, whether you're talking about Klein, you're talking about Cameron Sylvester, who was out there going Tweety Bird crazy trying to score. These guys were so good, but Kyle Ball led the way points-wise. That's why I take Kyle Ball and put him at Nolan Taberham.
That's a great second line, too. Ball in this Hampton Roads Whalers team. I mean, defensively, Hampton Roads is locked down. And Taberham is just another good body to have out there on the ice. Good awareness, good hands. Really great second line.
Let's see your second and third D pairs here. Lucas, take it away.
So I've got, I think a little bit of an interesting situation going on here, Dan, because I've had to go back now. I've really had to go back to what I like to do on the defensive side of the ice. And not many people do defense better than the Boston Bandits and none other than Brandon Troyer. This guy, he's got 27 points in the season, 5 power play points as well, so still getting involved. And he is going to be joined. I just talked about how good the Atlanta Mad Hatters were. So let's throw in Leighton Poole into the mix here, Dan. 24 points on the season, 9 power play assists. He's an 0-2. And Leighton Poole just gets after it. There's really no other way to describe the style of play that Poole brings to the table.
I mean, let's jump into that pick right there. Poole has been so good for the Atlanta Mad Hatters. He has been so stellar. 519 and 24, Lucas, you talk about with Leighton Poole. 9 power play assists. This is a defenseman who's going to factor in. When you put him in that second D pair, you can skate him a little less and have a lot more legs under him come power play time and special teams time. Then you go to the other side. Brandon Troyer is a horse. He is a horse, Lucas. Troyer has been so stellar. He skates so much time for this Bandits side. 27 points on the year. He's an 0-1 with a big future. Troyer and Poole can't go wrong.
And you certainly can't go wrong with this third line. And if you were afraid that my defense wasn't going to bring it, let this third line leave no more wondering on that front, Dan. We're going to start with Alex Reagan from the Charleston Colonials. 14 assists, no goals. That's a Lucas Jones defenseman right there. That is a man who only is concerned with defense and feeding the puck to his teammates. You talk about on-ice awareness, about being the quarterback out there. That's a guy who's finding pay dirt with other players. Every team needs an Alex Reagan on it. He plays well in center ice too, and he'll be joined by another defenseman who also plays very, very well in the neutral zone. I was impressed by how well Carson Schultz was able to perform in the neutral zone, how well he was able to perform at the D-line. He puts up a good amount of resistance. He's not afraid to go find an open ice hitter to challenge a puck carrier. I like these two filling in on defensive line number 3.
I'll tell you what, Lucas, Alex Reagan, he comes from New Zealand, and that's the home of the Flight of the Conchords. Well, it was the Flight of the Reagans this year out there with the Charleston Colonials. Both Reagan brothers had a great year. Alex Reagan, very, very deserving. Then Carson Schultz, man, I call him Mr. Late Night because he's a big game guy. You know, Johnny Carson had a late night show. Well, Carson Schultz came up big in every big game for the Tampa Bay Juniors. Great 2 picks there. Let's round out the defensemen. I got 2 more, and this was one of the hardest things I had to do. I could think of a million names I could have put in here. Number 1, I had to go for a rush team that was just so good. They had to have a defenseman on my squad, and that's Eric Podgorny, who was the go-to guy out there, 4-11, 15 points. Then I go to the Potomac Patriots, who at the elite premier level, they had a great year, real competitive down there in a really difficult Southeast division, and one of the biggest names on that team was Alexander Thomas, and Thomas was really, really good, Lucas. I got Eric Podgorny of the Rush and Alexander Thomas to round it out.
I mean, people who have been following the Rush Elite team know how good Podgorny is. Alexander Thomas, this year, we saw the Potomac Patriots get out to a heck of a start, and they carried a lot of that momentum throughout the year at the Premier and also, at the elite level as well. And, I mean, this Patriots team puts out good players, and Alexander Thomas is just one example of that. Physical guy, loves to get out there and play the game of hockey.
Getting to the goaltenders, I don't want to waste any time. I get pick number 1. This is the easiest pick of a lifetime. He just won his 98th Player of the Month in the Elite of the year. 98th time. There's only 12 months. It's Nick Bernstein, man. And this guy was burning them up all year long. He led in every stat category of goaltender, even Player of the Month awards. He was so good. He was so stellar. He was 17, 3-1-1, a 1.49 goals against, best in the league, a 9.49 saves percentage, best in the league, 5 shutouts, best in the league. This guy, the only thing he didn't win was the most wins, just because of who I know you're going to pick first. So go ahead. Nick Burns of the Generals, Lucas, though, unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, Bernstein, I think there's no bigger compliment you can give to a player that when the game and the season and the years on the line, you call Nick's name. You get him in net. You get the pads on him. You get him in the crease. When the game is on the line, you have to go to Bernstein because he's just that good. But alternatively, Dan, you could also go to Dylan Sheets from the Northern Cyclones, 18-2-1-0, 1.65 goals against average, 9.46 save percentage, 4 shutouts. Dylan Sheets, lock down city. Incredible goaltender.
I mean, Dylan Sheets would be the best goaltender in any other league in America. The only thing that happened was Nick Bernstein existed. It's amazing. I thought we were on a collision course if we didn't have everything go down the way it did for a Nick Bernstein, Dylan Sheets championship showdown. I was really excited to see those 2 goaltenders take off against each other, Lucas.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one, Dan. And for my second pick, I went a little off the statistical beaten trail here because I had to get a guy, A, before you get him, and B, because I know this is a goaltender who has a bright future in the game. From the Rockets Hockey Club, the only Dan Cascio star of the game to come from a team that did not win a hockey game. It's Joe Hughes of the Rockets Hockey Club, Dan. What a talent. I mean, you talk about a guy who is he's in so much shape. Like his physical fitness is so good. Dan and I didn't even eat a chicken wing for 24 hours because we felt so bad about it.
It was the worst I felt about myself in a long time. Joe Hughes puts in work, man. This is a kid who absolutely dominated and difficult to beat Hampton Roads Whalers team. He hung in there with any team he faced this year. Joe Hughes saw a lot of shots, the second most in the league at 862 shots. And Lucas, he's well-deserving of an all Lucas J nod. It's a great pick right there. I get two in a row now. I got to go Ty Morton next to the Hampton Roads Whalers. That's where I got to go. I look to Hampton Roads, and I think Ty Morton, the 10-4, 1-0 in a year for Morton, a 204 goals against, third best saves percentage in the year at a 931. That's stellar. That's stupendous. That's incredible. And then tied for second with Dylan Sheets for the most shutouts with 4 of them. Hampton Roads was in every game this young man started.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Morton is an excellent pick. You talk about a guy, it's funny because him and Joe Hughes, they look so confident. So our second goaltenders, it feels like it's confidence right now because then when they get in net, when they get in that crease stand, it feels like they're in control of everything, even the other team. Ty Morton is just such a confident goaltender. He's got skills. He actually moves really well in the crease too. I think that was one thing we noticed about him this year is that his post-to-post movement, his movement within the crease is very smooth. It's very controlled. And I think those are the fundamentals that are the building blocks of a bright future.
You know, if you're going to pick Ty Morton, Lucas, you got to go with Mike Varvaris. And that's where I go next because they nearly had an identical season. Varvaris, 10-4-0-1. A 1.81 goals against average, a 927 saves percentage, and 3 shutouts on the year. He had one less shutout. He had 4/10 less in the saves percentage game. And then that was a bad job by me there, but he was right behind there mathematically again. I didn't do well in math, folks. But Mike Varvaris of the Boston Bandits, he's going to join Ty Morton, and I love my triumvirate in that.
Yeah, that is a tough triumvirate. You got 2 goaltenders from that always tough Southeast. And then the Bandits. The Bandits are always involved. They're always in the mix. They always put out a great product year in and year out. And another team, Dan, that puts in a great product year in and year out is Carlos Mazargas of the Florida Eels. This is an Eels team that produces talent. You can slice it. You can dice it any single way you want. But the Eels are a great team. They put out great talent, and they have great goaltenders year in, year out. This year especially, I think their goaltending talent at the elite and premier. Obviously, this team suffered a few injuries on the defensive side, one on the goaltending side, but they just have talent. They have depth. They can do it all, and Carlos is an incredible example of that.
I mean, you look at him, you could have gone Sam Zavelson there with the Springfield picks, but Carlos Mazargas was the wizard of goaltending. We got a chance to see him a lot. 2.52 goals against. He was almost identical with Zavelson. Zavelson was a 924 saves. Mazargas, 924 saves. You look at shutouts, 2 apiece. You look at the goals against average, 2.53 for Zavelson, 2.52 for Mazargas. So close on the year. Lucas, I want to make sure before we close the goaltenders out, we also mentioned Griffin Nahr and Chris McElroy.
Yes,
Chris McElroy. And McElroy had a great year with the Bandits, a 13-6-1-0 record, 243 goals against, and 916 saves percentage. But then Griffin Nahr, Lucas, he faced 1,154 shots on the year. And this young man stood tall. Of his 7 wins for the Potomac Patriots, 3 were shutouts. What a year for Griffin Nahr. This guy was shredding all year long, man. He was making things happen. He was absolutely battling for the Patriots.
Oh, that's a great way to sort of end this out with a conversation, about Griffin, because you just take that many shots. I almost feel like at that point you make him play defense as well. He's already great at blocking pucks. You just say, just block everything, but you have to skate a little bit first, a little bit more than you're used to. But what a great season for him. And you just talk about resiliency and toughness. He embodies it.
Love it. Let's get to the coaches. We need someone to coach the team, Lucas. Your first coach, we'll each take 2. Your first coach for your all Lucas J Elite team.
Dan, I will tell you, first off, I'm going to the Southeast.
Okay.
Because I think it is the toughest division in the USPHL. It is the most competitive year in and year out. It is one of those divisions that just makes you nervous every time you head down there. And as the man who does the bench interviews, I get a sense for the intensity of these coaches. And one of the most intense coaches that I have ever been around while he's on the bench comes from the Hampton Roads Whalers. The only man I know that spells Cody with a K, it's Cody Rodriguez.
Great pick there. Cody is fiery. He's a battler, and I love the work he does there with the Hampton Roads Whalers. I got to go to my pick. I'm going to stay in the Southeast. I'm going to go to the team that was number one in this like one of the best teams. You know, you look at the Southeast Division, this team was always near the top. Trevor Jewell and the Charlotte Rush. I'm taking Trevor Jewell, man. This is a winner behind the bench. This is a great interview during the game. And this is a guy, you want to talk about passion behind the bench? Trevor Jewell brings it in spades.
Trevor Jewell is an excellent coach and an excellent interview as well. If there's ever a situation where both of us lose our voice mid-broadcast, we're just going to throw down to a game-long interview with Trevor Jewell, because that man will talk at length forever. But he talks about his players, he talks about his team, and he always lifts them up, and that's what the game of hockey is all about. And I've talked a lot about this team already today, and I've talked a lot about the team that my second coach comes from. And so, of course, I had to go to Alex Sanchez from the Florida Eels, because this squad is so good. This organization is so good. You want to talk about lifting up your players, about giving them a platform to succeed, and about having a no-nonsense approach to the game of hockey. You put in the work for the Florida Eels, you get the playing time. You have success in the playing time, you earn more playing time, and eventually leadership. And Alex Sanchez is at the helm in the elite.
This was a captain for the Florida Eels as a player. This is a guy who was in a Dan K show all Thanksgiving episode where we had to talk about turkey and Thanksgiving and what we're thankful for. He looks like Andrew Luck, locked in Andrew Luck lookalike. The worst thing that happened the best thing that probably happened for him was that Andrew Luck stopped playing football, because now I stopped comparing him to Andrew Luck as much. But this is a great young man, this great young kid with a huge future behind the bench. That's a great pickup for you, Lucas. I go to my next coach. I got to stay in the Southeast again. I got to go to a man. I mean, when it ain't broke, don't fix it. I picked RC Like last year. I like picking him again. Why not put Trevor Jewell and RC Like behind the bench together and have the most passion in the game of hockey behind my bench? We will be absolutely fired up come game time. Let's score 59 goals in this one, 60 goals, 70 goals. Let's go for it.
RC Like, a man who is unafraid to tell the world that he takes his coffee with 2 creams and 4 sugars, Dan. That is confidence right there.
Honestly, almost because of the coffee order, almost didn't take him. Hockey-wise, incredible coach, incredible mind. Players love to play for him. Coffee choice, I'm going to give that one like 1 star right there, Coach. You got to step up the coffee game. But other than that, this is a guy that knows how to win.
Absolutely. And let's go to a guy now for my broadcaster who I think has seen his fair share of winning. I think he's seen his fair share of great games. The man who has more time in his hands than anyone else, because every time you look up, he's broadcasting a different sport, it's Nick Rush. And Nick is a class act. Every time we get to work with him, it is the highlight of our weekend. He has a great instinct for the game. He has a great instinct for what the people want to hear. He's always working on his broadcasting craft. He's always learning new things. He posted a video of him practicing his football play-by-play over some Madden 20. It's never enough for this kid. He's always building.
I absolutely love the work ethic, man, on Nick Rush. I will be a Nick Rush supporter until the day the Dane K show is off the air. I'll tell you that much. And we ain't letting it go off the air. And we moved to my broadcaster, Lucas, and this is a guy we've worked with before. And this is the mouth of the South right here, man. This is the shouter from North Carolina. This is Morris Murphy. I've had a lot of alliterations on this team, and this is a man that can alliterate with the best of them. Morris Murphy, my pick for my broadcaster. We're going to have a heck of a time down there with some silky mitts.
Oh, that's it. I mean, Morris is an icon down there in Richmond, Dan. He is their guy through and through. And I think those two, I think it would be interesting because their styles are a little bit different if we had to have them broadcast together. But I think they'd figure it out pretty quick, and I think it'd be an entertaining broadcast.
You've heard our choices. You know who we picked. Celebrate those who have been picked. And if you weren't picked, players, broadcasters, coaches, use it as fuel. Fuel yourself. We've got a little bit of off-season left before we finally get back on the ice. Put in the work, put in the effort, battle, and do not take the L this off-season. Come back with all that energy and all that strength. Lucas, man, how excited are you?
I am very, very excited, especially because of all the hard work you've been putting in building the NCDC and the Premier team so far. Excited to see what the elite team is going to look like.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you so much. Lucas, I'll give you a chance at your parting words real quick. Those were perfect. Let me close out here. We remind you during these times, there's a lot going on in our world, and we want to make sure that we are there for the player, for the parent, for the families of all of our fans and viewers. We remind you at the Dan K Show that the Dan K Show is a family. It is us and it is you, and without you, we do not exist. We also want to make sure that every player knows that we are here for them at all times. We stand with athletes, we stand with people, and we stand with all people. The game of hockey is for everyone. This country is for everyone, and we are so excited for change to come, and we are so excited to be a part of it. And we want to tell your story. We are working on some incredible content right now with some amazing athletes that have stories that must be heard and need to be heard in order for this game to take the next step. And if you are one of those players, please reach out to the Dan K Show. Reach out to us at www.dankshow.com. You can also reach out to us via Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram in our direct messages. Please let us know if you'd like to share your story, if you'd like to talk, or just if you want to give us suggestions for the Dan K Show. We are here. We are an ear to listen, and we cannot wait to see where the game of hockey goes from here. When Dan K is on a mic, it is always hockey night. We thank you so much for watching, and congratulations to all our elite stars.
You know, one of the hardest things about the all Dan K, all Lucas J teams this year is we didn't even get the national championship week to take a look at some of these guys. That's our biggest research moment of the year.
Seriously, especially in the elite, we don't get to see enough of these guys. And I mean, that was the toughest thing for me. And it's why you almost start to, you fall back on the guys you know and you trust, you know what I mean, that you've seen in games. And that's my second forward line was just that. I mean, you look at Cooper Neal and Keenan Waters and those boys. I mean, those guys get the job done.
Absolutely. I mean, if we always say it, but we mean it, especially we cannot be everywhere. So you got to send us those clips of your players. So for the elite, the premier, the NCDC, parents, players, coaches, send us clips from Hockey TV or tell us what game, what time, and we'll clip it for you and send it back. But let us know what we need to be watching.
Yeah, that's it. I got nothing else. That was great. You summed it up.
Thank you.
That's probably where we cut it. You probably already cut out this.
Probably just I mean, I'd leave this maybe and like fade. Do you like a dramatic fade?
Ooh.